So we have some breaking news as it relates to Donald Trump's bond in that New York fraud case. Letitia James who is the attorney general there. She is objecting to the bond company. I want to get now to Ben Meiselas from the Midas Touch Network for the latest on this news. Ben, what is going on here?
Well, the bond company that you and I talked about on the last video together, Knight Specialty Insurance Company, doesn't have the adequate assets to be a surety, it appears, in the state of New York. It's like laughable and odd that I even have to say that. So let me just break it down for the viewer. So Donald Trump was unable to post his own cash in order to post a bond to stay the enforcement of the judgment in the New York Attorney General's civil fraud case. So Trump goes around, I'm so rich, I've got all of this cash.
Right.
Well, then he tries to get he gets kind of let off the hook a little bit by the appellate court, which allows him to reduce the bond from 464 to 175, which, again, if you're so rich, you should have $175 million. Then he goes to his friend, this guy Don Hankey, who runs Knight Specialty Insurance. But Knight Specialty Insurance doesn't have the adequate surplus funds in the state of New York in order to serve as a surety such that they can't be a guarantor of the money, which is the whole purpose of what a surety is, to provide the certainty and confidence that if a party loses the appeal, the winning party, in the other case, it was E. Jean Carroll. In this case, it was the New York Attorney General's office, can just say, okay, Knight Specialty, I'll take that money because you have the adequate assets. They don't have the adequate assets, Don. This isn't about whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. This is just about another Trump grift, another Trump lie, another Trump night. It's like, what is going on here?
Well, yeah, it is. But does this happen? Is this normal in this sort of case for someone to ask for a guarantee from the surety company?
Well, yes, in the sense that under New York,
Because they're saying they're not licensed in New York, right? So they shouldn't have to abide by New York rules. Am I correct in that?
that's apparently what they're saying now. But as a lawyer, that makes no sense. You have to abide by the laws of the state that you're purporting to do business in. You can't say, hey, I am a California company, I guess I'll just violate all the laws in New York, right? That makes zero sense. What is normal is the concept of a surety. Despite all of the times where Donald Trump says there's never been a bond like this before, this doesn't exist. Yes, it does. It absolutely does. If you want to appeal a judgment in a civil case and stay the enforcement of said judgment, you have to post a bond equal to the judgment plus post-judgment interest. That's just the hard, cold facts, what the law is. If you don't have the cash on hand, one of the things that you could do is get a surety to basically post the bond. And even if you do have the cash on hand, you can get a surety to step in your shoes and guarantee the funds so that the prevailing party could be able to get those funds when you win. But the surety has to comply with the law. So just think about it like this, Don. Donald Trump violated the law in a case involving the New York Attorney General, committed civil fraud in the way he does business. Now he's engaged in financial shenanigans, it would be me putting it very generously, in order to deal with the bond in a case where he's been found liable for fraud.
Okay, all right. So then, is Trump then? Is he in default if they somehow say, well, they can't guarantee this money, and just what happens
Could be.
then?
So now the process is the challenge will get heard by the court system in New York. The courts will determine can this Knight Specialty Insurance even serve as a surety? And if they can't serve as a surety, then I think we go back to where New York Attorney General Letitia James can seize these assets. Now, all the while, though, and here's the issue with everything Trump did, right? I forget if it was 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago at this point. It all melds in my mind at this point. But Trump was supposed to post the bond on that Monday, whenever it was, or the assets would be seized. Right. Donald Trump was bailed out by the appellate division, who gave him a little bit of extra time. And when you give him an
It's
inch,
400 and some million dollars, and then they reduced it to
here's the
175,
thing
right? It
though
was like
with Donald Trump in
450 million
general.
dollars.
If you give him an inch, he will take your life. That's how he treats you. You give him an inch, he takes you for a sucker. He doesn't think twice about it. He screws you over and will leave you out to dry. That's his MO. And the appellate division, the real issue is by them not being tough, the message it sends to him, all right, I'll get my buddy Don Hankey to come in and Hankey will help me out here. And then even if Hankey doesn't have the money, we'll just create a mess here. That's why Trump knows strength. You got to be tough. You got to say F you. And that's how you have to deal with him and people like him who suffer from malignant narcissism or make us suffer from his malignant narcissism.
But isn't that what he's saying? I mean, he's saying that's what Letitia James is doing. That she's, he's saying that she's racist, Rob, right? And these black women, her and Bonnie Willis, are out to get him. He's saying that out on the campaign trail. But she is actually being strong. She is doing what you say
He is, but
that
the
people
appellate
need to do when they're up against
she
Donald
is,
Trump.
but the appellate division let Donald Trump off the hook by reducing 464 to 175. They gave Donald Trump 10 days, where he used the 10 days to come up with the surety, who's not even appears to be a valid surety in the state of New York.
But Ben, let me ask you something, because isn't he entitled to that? Because as I understand, bond is not supposed to be punitive. It's just supposed to make sure that you're going to show up, that you actually have the funds, that you're going to abide by whatever the court rules or whatever is happening next until this is adjudicated till
Yeah,
the
that's
end.
wrong. You're thinking about and you're not you're presupposing and what Donald Trump is putting out there is that this is like a criminal bond, like a Bernie Madoff bond or somebody who
Got
has
it.
to show. That's not what this is. This is a civil case, not a criminal case. And in a civil case, the law, it's not about punitive. It's just if you want to avail yourself of an appeals process and stay the enforcement of a civil judgment, then you have to post a bond that is equal to the civil judgment plus 10%. And I'll give you the best example why. Let's take it away from the New York Attorney General case for a second and just turn it to the E. Jean Carroll case, where Donald Trump was found liable for sexually assaulting E. Jean Carroll. E. Jean Carroll is not New York Attorney General Letitia James. She's not the state of New York. She's a person who has been seriously wronged by Donald Trump. So what the law is saying is, Donald Trump, a jury found you liable for sexual assault. You have the opportunity to appeal this, but we need to protect the victim. In this case, is not you, Donald Trump. It's E. Jean Carroll. And the way we protect her is that we keep that money set aside that's equal to the judgment so that you don't use the appeal process to hide and shield your assets and move them someplace else. So by the time she prevails, there's no money for the victim. That's why in a civil case,
Okay.
unlike a criminal case, you have this process.
And that's why you're such a successful lawyer. And by the way, commentator, because you explained it all very concisely. But I have to ask you, what about using this appeals process to extend it so that you get so close to the election that it can't be adjudicated, that you can't continue? So then my question is, what is this latest hiccup? How long is this going to play out until they can figure out if this company, this surety company, can actually pay it? How much more does this add onto the case, and how much more time? You know what you understand what I'm saying?
Maybe a month. I don't think. Look, I think the appeals.
But a month that's a long time when you consider the election is November. Sorry to cut you off. Go on.
But this is where, as a litigator, sometimes when I think what's a short time will make people's heads explode. Like, I don't expect the appeal. Like, I've had cases that I had filed in 2018, and we just had a trial in that with COVID and all of the things, a few weeks back where we won and got a good verdict. But like, think about that. So to me, the appeals process, and I know people don't want to hear that, but those are the facts about sometimes how long it takes cases. So I don't think this appeals process will ever be done before the election at all. I think the appeals process will take 9 months to a year to sort itself out, regardless. But the idea is the adjudication already happened. Right? In the New York Attorney General civil fraud case, Trump was found to have committed fraud. The 464 is based on the financial fraud. The same way in the E. Jean Carroll case, Donald Trump was found liable. He's already been found responsible for sexually assaulting E. Jean Carroll. He has the right to appeal, but that right under New York law comes with strings attached, which is the posting the bond element. And ultimately, if an appeals court finds differently, that's the system of justice that we have. But here's the thing, Don, and I'll leave you with this. Trump wants to destroy the system that we have. For all of the quirks and how long it is and lengthy it is and a pain in the ass it is, I like our system generally. That's what I studied. I'm a student of it. I literally teach law school. But what Trump wants to do with these games is he puts his middle finger to the system and wants to break it down. And that, to me, is, again, not a Democrat or Republican thing. It's somebody who just doesn't like the rule of law in Donald Trump.
So, as someone who doesn't really abide by the Constitution and attacks our institutions at every turn. Ben Meiselas from the Midas Touch Network with another hiccup in a case involving the former president vying to be the future president of the United States, Donald John Trump. Ben, thank you. We'll be watching you on the Midas Touch Network, and we appreciate you joining us on the Don Lemon Show.